curve then. I wouldn't point that out this time. Through Clark Curve then, onto Railway Bend. This is the long left-hander that is actually flat stick. Wait for the bike to wag its head. We're looking at Neil Mackenzie. He ain't trying, is he, old Mackenzie?
Look at this.
Rev A Red Bull versus National Tyre Suzuki. John Crawford tried to go underneath him, but it's Reynolds that gets under the lot of them. Fourth then for Reynolds, under Hayden. Hayden will not like that.
Teammate versus
look at
teammate.
this. Platers up in the air. Then it's Paul Young on bike 96 behind the first of the level
Another
3
good showing
Yamahas.
from the Aussie, Young.
Yeah, but he's a long way back this time round, so it's not quite the same thing as we had.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, James Hayden straight back under Reynolds.
And
there.
Reynolds going.
Reynolds cuts to the outside, and back in tyres. Dear me.
What's Crawford thinking there? Behind him thinking,
He's thinking, I want to go home.
Yeah.
This is a chicane. Through has gone Neil Mackenzie in front of this battle, and he might well want to be in front of him. 7 is Mackenzie. We're looking now at 5. Oh, dear me, Hayden in front of Reynolds, in front of... Yes, I think he's still there. John Crawford almost has won with the Rev A Red Bull. Kenny Crawford goes to the inside line. Now at Reynolds. No, not this time. Little John's got him covered. Well, which Little John?
Reynolds
went out wide there. That's where Reynolds found himself in all sorts of trouble, if you remember, in the first race. In fact, bigger trouble than most. Hodgson under a lot of attack now from Chris Walker. Chris Walker as they drop down to Duffer's Dip.
And the gap staying about constant. It's edging up by what, hundredths of a second. Look, aggression from Neil.
Body language there from Neil Hodgson, from one side of the bike to the other. It's very physical to get these machines around these tight little turns, and really Neil Hodgson giving us graphic indication of just how tough it is to make it work. Look at Mackenzie in third place. Neil Mackenzie really is on it here in Scotland.
He's
really
not out of it. He's not out of it at all. They're half a second the gap between first and second. But
keep an eye on what's going on behind these two. We've seen Hodgson and Walker battling it out, but it's Mackenzie you've got to keep an eye on. Fastest lap. Well, that's a new lap record straight away. Neil Hodgson then into lap record territory already. The old lap record, incidentally, held by John Reynolds in 51.043 seconds. So they've kind of annihilated it, Jules.
They have, and the average speed in the first race was only 81 miles an hour, so it shows you how much faster they go in the dry, if you were wondering.
Indeed. Curb cam. Through go the top two. Hodgson off one side of the bike, off the other side of the bike, down into McIntyre's, named after Bob McIntyre, just in case you're on a different planet. And I'll tell you what, Neil Hodgson looks like he's been taking lessons out the Carl Fogarty Book of Style. More aggression.
Coming down the hill there. Well, that body lean.
Keep an eye on Mackenzie. Mackenzie's still there in third place, ain't able to close in on these two just yet. I still feel that a lot of this will be down to tyres. Who's chosen the right ones?
Okay, Keith, so when does that come into play? 20 laps, 15 laps?
We're only on lap 6 of the 28 at the moment. And also, remember, it's still warming up here at the moment. The sun came out just an hour or so ago. You can still see damp patches around parts of the track off the racing line.
Oh, that's out there, you mean?
Yes, I think, no, well, if you're going to go right out there, yeah. James Hayden then on some kind of a mission.
The question I'm asking you, Keith, is when would you expect the tyres wear to make itself felt?
Usually they start to play up about 2/3 distance if they're going to, but then again
laps.
it depends on how much you've been sticking through the rear wheel. If you've really been riding it really hard, making it spin, making it go sideways, then that'll use up a tyre much quicker than if you're smooth. Now Neil Hodgson normally is much smoother. That's where you get on board with Neil Mackenzie.
I'll finish a sentence for you. Dan Chris Walker is
that's exactly the sentence I needed finishing through. Through Clark. I tell you what, Mackenzie's quick through there. Really
He's quick everywhere
fast
around here.
Yeah, but he was quick there particularly. Yeah, but he don't hold the lap record.
No, exactly. It was Reynolds' record, wasn't it?
Indeed.
So
good memory retention.
That's not
We're
bad
at
for
the
me.
hairpin. Taylor's hairpin. Up the hill. Look at that. He's riding the front wheels off the ground. He's steering it with his body weight because he just didn't want to lay off the throttle to bring the front wheel into play.
That looked like Foggy.
Lap 8 of 28. Hodgson easing away from Chris Walker, making it look easy. So Chris Walker having to watch Hodgson, as he's done 1 or 2 times this year. Really, Chris Walker must be, well, he must be disappointed with the fact that when Hodgson actually hits the form, then he just disappears into the distance away from Chris sometimes.
Yeah, and that gap now up to all but a second, so it's doubled in 3 laps.
Keep an eye on Neil Mackenzie though. I don't think he's over and done with just yet. So 4 is Hodgson leading this race, from Chris Walker in second place. Neil Mackenzie, the other INS Ducati, is in third place. Now Walker, one thing you can guarantee about Walker is he won't give up.
Absolutely, he will attack at some point in proceedings.
And he don't care who.
Precisely.
Oh, I tell you what, it might be Mackenzie that's in there as well though. Well, it's a good question whether Walker is going back to Mackenzie or whether Mackenzie's catching. We're going to have to keep an eye on our monitors just to see if we can work this out.
I'll keep an eye on the gap between first and third then. That's the number we need to look at. It was 1.9 seconds last time we got a check. I have a feeling that might be coming in. It might be Neil Mackenzie speeding up. That might be what we're talking about here.
Looking down at the dip now, up towards the top of the chicane, through the chicane. Superb onboard shots now, blasting out towards Clark Curve. This is where Mackenzie is so quick into this right-hander. Look how much he closes up on, perfect apex as well. Really closes in there on Walker. Now it's a long, flat left-hander down towards Taylor's hairpin. Back down to bottom gear. The bike never stops shaking its head, does it? Here is Hayden. He's in 4th place at the moment. So James Hayden, despite that pain in the neck, is still going really well. Hayden bitterly disappointed at that crash in race 1. Reynolds is behind him in 5th place on bike 3.
The pain in the neck exacerbated, of course, by the DNF in the...
Yes,
that's what
I see what you're saying. There
the
is
DNF in race 1.
JR. So JR hanging on in 5th place at the minute. He is not going to be happy to be back there.
Especially as his lap record's just gone out the window. That really will put the tin hat on his weekend.
I think it's got more to do with his championship position, because if we have Hodgson, well, yeah, I think we're going to find Reynolds slip back to, what, 3rd place in the championship?
Could very well be, Keith, if...
There's only 1 point between him and Reynolds, if I remember rightly, Walker and Reynolds.
That's about the case.
So at the moment, Reynolds is 3rd in the series.
Absolutely, and at the front of the field, don't forget 6 points, the gap between Hodgson and Walker. And there's a 5-point difference between 1st and 2nd. That makes the sums nice and easy.
Doesn't it just, even for me. So then, Hodgson crosses the line. Chris Walker still stalking, as he's well known for. Not been a double win this year
do you think he's the stalky as well as the stalker here, on the grounds that Mackenzie is surreptitiously closing up to him?
I'll tell you what, when you use words like surreptitiously and stalky, I don't understand, John.
Well, it's still 1.9 seconds between 1st and 3rd, and Walker goes going backwards within that gap, if you like, by a couple of tenths. So that's my reading of the plot.
Oh, look at Mackenzie now. That's a good reading, Julian. You bang on with that one, mate. I can't even argue with you, and you know how much I like to. Through Clark Curve then. There is Mackenzie. Oh,
beautiful.
That says everything. Neil Mackenzie is back and banging away at it, because Neil Mackenzie, 3 times a British Superbike champion. He's beaten them all. A superb Grand Prix rider, 38 years old, allegedly, and still absolutely brilliant. Wife Jan, 2 kids. What more could you ask for? He's got the whole thing perfect, hasn't he?
Absolutely, and he is closing in on Chris Walker, and we are getting some of the best onboard shots I've seen all year here, courtesy of Neil.
Yeah, on this tight, twisty 1.3 mile.
Look at that crowd all the way around it.
Yes, you noticed that.
Just and look at Mackenzie, 1.6. He is closing down on Hodgson now.
Yeah, Hayden and Reynolds are out of it down there. Crawford, it's good for the Scot, 9 seconds behind though. He won't be happy with that. He's behind his teammate here, Chris Walker, on the National Tyre Suzuki. Crawford, I know. Neil! Again out of that right-hander. He's a hooligan.
He's riding like a walker.
He will be a bloody walker if he carries on like this. So then, we're at the hairpin.
That's your professional opinion, is it?
On the start and finish straight now. I'll cover that completely. Up and over the hill. No such thing can be said about Neil Mackenzie, that's for sure. Under the bridge, down towards Duffers Dip. We're on board with Neil Mackenzie. He's closing in on 2 of the hottest properties in world superbike racing, not just domestic. Neil Mackenzie, any other year this guy would be walking it, but he's got 2 of the very best young riders in the world in front of him.
Nice to hear Chris Walker counts as young still, isn't it?
Okay. I use the words of Zeiss. Yes. At least Neil Hodgson is certainly a very young rider.
And James Hayden is the next man along.
Down goes Mackenzie! Mackenzie out through. Well, I think that was Clark Curve. Dear me, well, he had a bit of warning here and there and everywhere, so Neil Mackenzie...
Oh, he's walking.
Yeah, well... I am so disappointed there for Neil Mackenzie.
You can feel the depression settling on the crowd, can't you?
And me. So Neil Mackenzie, the only good thing about it is at least he is okay. Yeah. Let's take another look at it and see what happened. We're at Clark. He's been good here all the way. Well, he asked for them. He put the throttle on there so early. Well, our camera got well filled in, as did Neil. And you've got to say... And the engine going for it as well, so it just dies off. The mercury switch work there then. So Mackenzie out, that leaves Hodgson and Walker out on their own pretty much in 1st and 2nd place at this moment in time. Of course, unless James Hayden decides to wind the wick up there, he's now in 3rd place on the Reve Red Bull Ducati. John Reynolds is in 4th place, John Crawford is in 5th, and Steve Plater is 6th.